Hey everybody, it's Dr. Scott here with Healthy You, and this episode is going to be all about wheat. I know, we have all heard tons and tons and tons in the media on both sides saying that wheat is bad, wheat is good. Well, I think it's important that if we're going to know that if we're going to put something in our body, it should be good or bad, it's important that we understand that there is actual science behind this stuff. And so here's the cool thing, okay? So there's a lot that we actually know about wheat and what it does to our body. And there's a couple of things that we want to start the foundations with so that you know what wheat does within you and what compounds are actually causing part of the problems. So foundationally, the wheat that we eat now is not at all close to the stuff that we used to eat even 100 years ago. It is completely changed because now they make flour. And so flour makes our bread taste yummy, but it changes the chemical composition of the wheat, so there are chemical compounds that float around in there now, like gluten and gliadin, that actually cause us to go and have problems with our immune function, nervous system function, digestive function, because it causes us irritation. So let's start the foundation. So grain toxicity is one of the big issues we want to talk about. So grains are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids and tend to have very few omega-3s. I could do a whole webinar about this stuff, but you have to understand that the body has to have good omega-6 to omega-3 balance. Otherwise, we start having systemic inflammation. Nuts and bolts. Systemic inflammation, heart of just about every major disease that we see today. It's important to understand that's bad. Second thing, it makes our blood very acidic. Also very bad. So acidic blood is blood that is ripe for just about every type of disease. In particular, let's talk about things like heart disease, cancer. Big time increases our risk, big time lowers our pH. Cancer cells can only thrive in a low pH or acidic environment. So makes it difficult for our blood sugar to be regulated, because when you look at breads and pastas and things like that, they're all very high on the glycemic index, which means that it doesn't take long for it to break down before it hits our bloodstream. Very, very, very bad thing. This leads to risk factors for diabetes, leads to weight gain, leads to problems with the thyroid gland, leads to problems with our immune function, a whole host of issues. Bad, bad, bad thing. Two major proteins, gluten and gliadin. Everyone knows about gluten. Gliadin's its troublesome counterpart. Both cause troubles with the nervous system, both wreak havoc on our ability to go and function normally. So they've actually shown in research studies that gluten and gliadin can actually go after things like our thyroid gland, or can result in things like schizophrenia or predisposing to schizophrenia. Bad news. Also, these things called phytates. So if you haven't heard of these, do your research. Bad things. They bind up calcium, magnesium, and iron, so we can't absorb them. They're kind of important, right? So if you don't have iron, we have a real difficult time getting things into the bloodstream like oxygen. Kind of need this stuff. Also, calcium and magnesium, two of our most important electrolytes. Calcium, everybody knows, for bones. Big deal, right? Weak bones, not a good thing. Low pH, phytates also lead to bone problems. So magnesium, involved in 300 different bodily functions. This is a huge deal to not have sufficient magnesium. If you don't have magnesium coming in the way that it's supposed to, and it almost always comes in, bound to calcium, then you're gonna have problems with everything from your GI to the way you perceive pain. Bad news. So, nuts and bolts, right? There's a lot of bad things that come from eating grains in general, wheat being the worst of all of these daddies. So second thing, omega-3 to omega-6 balance. Touched on this before. So wheats are extremely omega-6 dominant, don't really have any omega-3s. This leads to a low-grade systemic inflammation state like I mentioned before. That ratio, it's gotta be